Halo is not what it used to be. This franchise has been around for decades now, and I'm sure many of you have at least heard of it before. But there's a huge difference in how Halo is seen today from how it used to be seen in the past. Before, Halo was a titan of the games industry. It was paving the path forward for the first-person shooter genre on consoles and bringing many people to understand that any game can push what is acceptable. It had an amazing soundtrack. It had a very interesting story that had deeper layers if you wished, but if the game was enough for you, the story was still entertaining, and it had smooth gameplay. It also helped pioneer the way multiplayer for games on consoles were done, at least in first-person shooters. Halo had everything. It would have Forge, one of the earliest methods of players without any sort of real development understanding to create content for the games they enjoy and share them with other players. It had custom games which allowed for creativity to spawn infinite fun as players could concoct their own game modes and rule sets to varying degrees depending on the game, and also share those. When combined with custom maps on Forge, it created a very fun social experience. And that, at the core of it, was one of Halo's biggest strengths. Its community, its social structure, and the fact that the game had many different outlets to support it. If you preferred fighting against the computer, you had Firefight. You could play that with other people or alone against the AI. You had Campaign, which you could play with or alone against the AI with a story. You had normal multiplayer, but you had social games, less serious, wacky modes like everyone spawns with rocket launchers. So much going on. Whether you've played Halo or not, I'm just trying to get across that for the longest point of its lifespan, Halo was everything. Not to everyone, but to the games industry. Halo and Master Chief could have been considered somewhat like Mario was before the 2000s. These days, most people would probably scoff at that, but during its golden days, you could make that statement, and you could kind of see it. Halo 3's launch, Halo 2's launch, both made massive impacts on public news. Celebrities were all about trying to get into deals with Halo, and the multiplayer of the games would go on for years after the rest of the experience had died out. Halo 2 was still being played on original Xbox Live the day it was shut down for good. And in fact, they kept it going past shutdown for a bit as people refused to turn off their console. I myself was a big fan of Halo. I got introduced to it through split-screen multiplayer of Halo 3's campaign, and I knew nothing about it before I played it. I don't even think I really played shooters until that point, but I loved what I played enough to try and buy it. Now, a mistake was made, and I ended up getting Halo 3 ODST, but I still enjoyed that. I played that split screen again with my family this time, and had a good time. And ever since then, I have been a fan of Halo. I would go to play the main games. I would even read a couple of the earliest books. I would look at their anime adaptation. I would look at the live action shows they had at the time. The music I would listen to in my free time as well. I would mess around on Forge. I would look at the machinimas, an entire industry of YouTube designed around making comedy or even serious dramas, I suppose, but using games and the tools within games. And Halo, thanks to its Forge and theatre options, which allowed you to capture footage, really pioneered that aspect. These days, machinimas aren't really, well, around anymore, but trust me, 2000s internet, they were big, and Halo was probably the main reason they got as big as they were. But as I was saying, I was a big fan of the games, I was a big fan of the universe that they established, and I loved the characters. But this was not to last. Once Halo Reach had came out, as this final hurrah for the series, I thought it was over. But I thought it was a hell of a way to end it. Halo Reach brought so much of the series I loved at that point together. It was perfect. Not objectively, but for me, it was perfect. The campaign was more emotional than the past ones, but it didn't have to do that by changing the characters necessarily. It was emotional because of what it showed and the themes it pushed, and the fact that you yourself got to experience the loss that would happen on the planet Reach. It harkened back to Halo's past by bringing up Reach, and yes, it was different than how we were told before, but it was still Reach, you know? The campaign was great, but the multiplayer was potentially even better. We had new modes such as Invasion, which I still think is one of the best modes we've ever gotten in Halo, where you had a team of Spartans versus a team of elites in an objective capture game mode. We had a bunch of vehicles, an assortment of weapons, the best forge at that point in time, a working theatre mode, a great firefight mode. So much content was in Halo Reach, and they even released a couple more with DLC. But when that did end, when Bungie stepped away, and that was that, that's when it came. Halo 4 announced, still going to be a 360 title. Don't quite remember the release date anymore, but the point is, it was back. And I was very much excited to see where they would go. There was obviously the caution that a story that felt like it had ended quite nicely could be soured by dredging it back up. But at the same time, did I really want to just know Master Chief was frozen forever in space at the end of Halo 3? Not really. So I was down to seeing a continuation. But the problem is that Halo 4 and what would follow represented the period of downfall, where my dissatisfaction for the series would just continue to grow. Halo 4 came out, and it just didn't hit the same anymore. None of my friends got into it as much. We used to always play the multiplayer together at the end of the days, but the problem is this multiplayer was so focused on being anything but Halo that we all lost the love we had for it. The campaign was so different, both visually and from a gameplay point of view, where they added these new enemies, the Prometheans, and they were just annoying as hell to fight. They would dodge all the time, regain health, spawn more, and you would get terrible guns with next to no ammo. It wasn't a good time. And then we had Halo 5, which felt even less like a Halo game. There's a bunch of jokes at the time of it being a Power Ranger game with guns. Copied a bunch of mechanics from Titanfall, as well as Call of Duty still. And it just wasn't doing what we wanted. The campaign, where you barely played as Master Chief, and instead played as someone trying to hunt Master Chief, and the game was trying to think that we would care about that, when no, obviously we want to play as Master Chief. Complete craziness. Elites were another big feature. The aliens that you could play as just got removed from Halo 4 onwards. You couldn't do it anymore. No real reason given. There was always these strange lore reasons like, well, the multiplayer now is just a Spartan simulation, and when we play Elite, who cares? It's the multiplayer of our game. Let us play the game. And then we have Halo Infinite, which is the real thing I wanted to talk about in this video. Halo Infinite has been a disaster. And I don't say that lightly, because we experienced the Master Chief Collection's original launch, which really was a news-rated disaster. But Halo Infinite somehow surpassed that tragedy. It released bare bones after I think it was a 6-year wait. Restarted development has surely occurred, but the point is that what we got delivered wasn't anything comparable to even the games I didn't like Halo 4 and Halo 5. All the Halo games had launched with a standard of quality at the very least. You had your campaign, you had your multiplayer, they had an assortment of modes, they had an assortment of weapons, and they were mostly bug-free. But Halo Infinite, it was paving its own way. From the start, the signs were bad, because Halo Infinite was pushing the free-to-play microtransaction model. This model is not something I inherently disagree with, because it's just another way of making money. It doesn't necessarily have to be predatory, but Halo Infinite was certainly predatory. Multiplayer Spartans used to be able to be customized with colors and a gear. That's still in Infinite, but they have broken them down to the smallest pieces and then slapped price tags on them with microtransactions to sell them back to you. But not even is it as straightforward as that, because they would keep some of these items and only put them available for chunks of time at a go, so that you would have a fear of missing out, otherwise known as FOMO, where you think, if I don't buy it now, it may never come back. For content that in past games was just there, part of the thing. Colour schemes, red and blue, are being monetized to players now. The fact that there were only about 7 modes at launch, and some of them couldn't even be played properly, like Big Team Battle, which I think is still an ongoing issue, was just indefensible. The campaign having no co-op whatsoever. A Halo campaign with no multiplayer. I got into Halo through multiplayer, and I played those campaigns on multiplayer, and that's how my friends got into Halo, and I've heard this is how many people have either got into or enjoyed Halo. But there wasn't any of that in Infinite. Infinite has its battle pass. If you want to get gear without paying, you need to grind the battle pass, but you don't contribute to it without doing challenges that can be very specific, very annoying, and can only have, I think, 3 a day. Everything about this game, regardless of what was said publicly, was about drawing every last cent out of the player base without even having the quality gameplay to back it up. No content. And what have we got now? About 8 months later, still no content. They've added, what, 2 maps, I think, in this time. They've added 2 maps, and they have only just started looking into establishing multiplayer for campaign. Which brings me to my next concern with Halo Infinite. I don't think Halo Infinite is going to be able to be a good game. Maybe in 10 years' time, it will be somewhat respectable, but that is such an unrealistic amount of time to wait. And to me, the game would be long gone by then. Halo has fallen so far from the heights it once held, and it's sad. Sad because you remember what used to be there, and you remember the good times, but then you look at it now, and it's called the same thing you remember, but it's just not. I couldn't believe when I saw people celebrating and praising the news that the multiplayer for Halo Infinite is being released. Not only that, but the ability to level select campaign missions is being added to the game. Before this point, you couldn't even replay a level without restarting your entire campaign progress. And people are even attacking those that say it's not good enough. The fact that the fans of Halo who are still here have been reduced to worshipping getting campaign features 8 months past launch is baffling. And that they would defend the microtransaction system of multiplayer because it's been beaten into them for so long now. Halo 5 started the trend that they just accept it. People say, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's just a couple of pounds here and there. You're buying colours for your Spartan. Colours. Halo 1 let you pick your colours. Ah, it's not that bad. Don't you see that bit by bit, the standards have been reduced to where they are now? I'm not unreasonable. I understand from the development standpoint, if you're just some guy working on Halo Infinite, getting campaign to allow multiplayer and level selects is an important feature. And just because someone says, well, it's not good enough, it should have been there before, doesn't mean you shouldn't have done it. I understand that, and that's why I can see why, yes, some people just say, well, I want to be excited now that it's here. That's great. But this is Halo. This isn't an indie game where a couple of guys in the basement are just struggling to get by. This is a big company, Microsoft, and this was their head-running franchise. Now, I'm not so sure. The people that buy the games and prop them up are the fans from the old days, because the newer Halos haven't been doing as well. They haven't been resonating with many people, and the amount of fans they have generated is still less than the legacy fans. So for the people that remember how it used to be, to see them begging for scraps is just sad. And most of those people, I would wager, didn't do that and just left. And I was one of them. I am one of them. I have left. I just keep checking in, seeing maybe if Halo stopped doing drugs. Maybe he's come around, but he hasn't. He's even worse now. It's just sad to see. I don't want Halo to be this bad game or failing game all the time. You see it constantly trying to get back up and constantly falling down. But clearly there's something going on in either the management or resources, I don't know, but it's been spiraling, and Halo Infinite is still flailing around. To those of you that enjoy Halo Infinite, that enjoy Halo as a whole, where it is now, where it's going, with the story that's been dropped and poorly restarted at least twice now, that's fine. That's great, I suppose, but don't you think you deserve better and that the series can do better? People keep saying look back, but it's for a reason. It's because once upon a time, things were better. And now, they're being accepted for worse. Do people remember that during Halo 5, 343, the people that you're protecting when you say stop complaining that they're making things late, directly insulted fans with 2 cartoon animations about people who they anticipated would voice concerns about the microtransactions being added into Halo 5's progression system and multiplayer gameplay. Because those happened.
Wait, won't rec packs with special weapons break the exquisitely refined balance of arena multiplayer?
Secure your noise hole, soldier! Grown-ups are talking.
Damn it. So can't someone save up their rec cards, join a Warzone match, and spawn an uber-powerful vehicle?
Your noise hole just doesn't know when to quit!
These are the same people, the same company that did that. So it goes beyond giving them the benefit of the doubt when you see what they're still putting out now. Some things have been great. The art style change, going closer to form than how it used to be, is excellent. I'm pretty sure that was inspired by the positive reception of Halo Wars 2, which is a Halo game I did enjoy. Halo Wars 2 was probably the outlier ever since Halo 4 for me. So the art style reform was good, but that's about all I could say, really. The live-action TV show, what a disaster that was. Character assassination of Master Chief, I couldn't believe it. In a way, I'm kind of glad that everyone else who I know from Halo moved on, because man, that was just not good to see at all. What has happened to Halo? I don't know, but clearly it's not been getting better. I don't even have a solution. At this point, I would probably just start a new game, not associated with any of the past Halos, with a different group of people working on it, with a proper vision, and hope it does well there. Because aside from that, honestly, it doesn't look like Halo has a future. What, people are going to get excited to play the campaign DLC in 4 years from now? Great, there's probably only going to be 10 people playing at that point. There are so many other games coming out that are trying to push boundaries, or at least mastering what they already know. Halo is just not at that level anymore. And that is truly a shame. And that is all I have to say on the matter of Halo. When Titans fall, they fall hard. I don't know if you've played it yourself and if you have a history or not, but please let me know what your opinion of the Halo franchise as it stands today is in the comments down below. I'm truly interested to hear some more opinions. I personally believe, though, that it's nowhere good, especially when you compare it to how it used to perform. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. I know it was a bit of a rant, but I just wanted to get my honest opinions out of the current state of Halo. If you enjoyed what I had to say and would like to see more, let me know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment directly to me so that I understand what it is you're looking for and what you enjoyed. I hope you have a great day, and to see you next time. This is the Mighty Emperor, signing off.